Starting it. Pause recording.
So a small procedural moment as people get settled is for those of us who are visitors, we welcome you. We see you there in that guest mode. Those of you who are panelists, please take a moment after you get settled to switch your chat over. You should be able to switch it to hosts and panelists. Um, Actually, switch it over to everybody. That's what I meant to say. Thank you, Brian. So
Yeah.
clicking that over to everyone will make sure that everyone is able to see whatever's going on in the chat.
And I think we have just a few more council members that are in the process of moving over to panelists, which means that we can hear and see you. And so once we get those folks promoted, Brian, Michelle, are you all good to get started after we have everyone joining us?
No.
Michelle says no.
Lynn,
I'm
can
good
you
to get
please
started.
give me more instruction on how to get to the setting that you need me to be at?
In your chat, there is a something when it says two, there's a blue oval and it says hosts and panelists. And when you click on that and opens up a little menu, you should be able to switch that to everyone.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Do you guys hear my background music for a sound check?
No.
No? It's too bad, you're missing out.
So it's 1:05. I'd like to call the meeting to order if it's acceptable to everyone.
Let's do that. Okay. The IDEAS Advisory Council has officially begun on December 9th, 2025. It is a Tuesday. We usually meet on a Tuesday. It is a different Tuesday than what we usually meet on. So thank you for those that changed a bit in your schedule. My name is Brian B. I am a voting member and I am a co-chair for this meeting. On the screen displayed now, IDEAS Advisory Council, and I just put in the Zoom chat what IDDEAS stands for. I feel like we don't say that enough. It stands for Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Equitable Access to Services. It is a community advisory council for those with lived experience and interest in the IDD world in Denver. Here on your screen, you'll see in Spanish and in English a description. It says it's an appointed group of Denver residents with lived experience with IDD or work in the field or have a loved one with intellectual developmental disability. We meet regularly to offer guidance to Denver Human Services on the needs and wants of Denverites with IDD. You will notice that I take pauses. I invite you to do so as well as we go forward together today. Here is our mission and our vision. IDEAS partners with the community to manage local taxpayer dollars dedicated for Denver residents with intellectual and developmental disabilities and developmental delay. Money that is tagged specially for this population. Our vision is we strive to make Denver an inclusive community where people with IDD feel welcome, valued, and empowered to live the lives they envision for themselves. Here is the layout for our time together today. Start at around 1 o'clock and we end at 3 o'clock. Invite you to have some water nearby to sip. Maybe put your device on a setting that doesn't disturb you or others. And welcome to the space. Maybe you had to click through on a lot of things just to be here. So thank you for the behind the scenes ones that do clicking. Michaela, I see you have your hand up.
Hi all, this is Michaela. Can you hear me okay?
You can be heard.
Wonderful. So sorry to interrupt, Brian. I just wanted to check in quickly with Adriana to make sure that she could access the interpreter. Adriana, ¿puede usted escuchar a Yami?
Sí, gracias.
Está bien. Bienvenido a esta reunión. Okay, Brian, so sorry for the interruption. Please go ahead.
Igualmente, bienvenidos a todos. So hopefully you got through some of the clicks. Maybe you have some water nearby. And there's a couple of other ground rules or agreements that we all have when we share space. I'm going to repeat one you may have missed a bit ago. If you have access to the chat, and especially voting members on IDEAS Advisory Council, please go to the chat and change the settings so that when you send a message, it goes to everyone, not just to hosts and panelists. You can even go send a message now that says hi or what's up or whatever you want to put, something short, and just test it and change the settings. All right, here are some other 5 ground rules. Voting members, would one of you like to read number 1? Try to jump in quick so we can do this in a timely way. Unmute if you feel bold or if you don't.
This is Alicia Cooper.
Yeah, go ahead, Alicia.
Number 1, stay muted. Raise your hand, then unmute to speak. Introduce yourself when you speak.
Thank you. I had a really hard time hearing Alicia. Others as well? Was it really quiet or was it fine? I am turning my volume up. Let's see if it's my end. Number 2. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Brian. This is Michaela. I was just going to say that I could hear her okay, but my volume's turned up pretty high.
Oh, okay. Everything's a song for me, and that one's called Pump Up the Volume. Number 2, who would like to read that?
Hey everyone, this is Stephanie. I'm happy to read it.
Please.
Stay on topic and consider if your point speaks for the benefit of people in Denver who have IDD.
Thank you. And number 3, remain safe during our meetings. For example, if you're driving, or if there's other things going on in your vicinity. Who would read number 4? Go ahead and unmute and mute. Denver Code of Ethics there. So voting members, we've all been sent that, and we agree to abide by that. And then number 5, no artificial intelligence or other third-party accounts are allowed at this time without prior approval by Department of Human Services. If that helps you, please be in touch with Michaela, Lynn, myself, Michelle. Let's get you situated well. Thank you for our layout. All of these meetings are public and they are recorded, and you probably had to click a button to acknowledge that. or it might be on the top of your screen now and you want to click it if you want that part to go away. Votes will happen in the chat. That's why we ask you to change it from just hosts and panelists over to everyone. There are interpretation services today. Thank you very much for all those that helped this happen. You can toggle back and forth to hear between English and Spanish. You can see a small Zoom window example there of what you'll click on. More, and then interpretation from the list. Toggling languages. If you feel like you'll need this later, you may want to take a picture of it now or a screenshot. All right, let's do introductions, and please give a brief visual description of yourself, your experience and affiliation here, your name, and your pronouns. Who would like to? Oh, hi, Lynn. I see you have your hand up.
Hi, Brian. This is Lynn. I just need to get, we have one more council member that I'm trying to do that promote to panelist for. So there we go. Okay. Sometimes that little pop-up goes away. We've got our last council member coming in as a panelist. So thank you for letting me interrupt for some procedural.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to invite you all to participate. Go to your React button right now, and I'd like you to do what I'm doing, which is click applause, and that's for Lynn. Lynn is making a lot of this meeting happen, and Lynn's team of tech advisors and support. Thank you all. All right, now let's go around and introduce ourselves with our voting members first. I'm going to call on you for ease and efficiency. Seth, would you like to come say hi?
Hello, my name is Seth. I'm a voting council member. I use he, his pronouns. I'm a white male in my 40s wearing a black shirt. And I've been in the IDD field for like 15 years. And I currently work as a adult advocate for Advocacy Denver.
Welcome, Seth. And Michelle, would you like to come say hi?
Hello, everyone. I am Michelle Dumais. I'm the co-chair, so I help Brian make the magic happen. And everyone who knows me, my favorite pronouns are me and I and my. Uh, uh, I am an African American female. I happen to be Muslim, so that means today I'm rocking the sky blue or the baby blue or the teal blue scarf, and I have on round glasses that also are metallic and have uh, those colors and a little bit of purple. And um, my experience is that I am the mother of a community member. So I've been in this field technically for 18, almost 19 years, because that's how old she is. And we love Denver. So we live in Green Valley Ranch, and there's some other things I do in the community, but this is one of my favorite things.
Thanks so much, Michelle. This is your chance to go to those reactions and show some love for Michelle's amazing description and her heart about loving Denver. Stephanie, would you please come say hi? I try to wait until people are coughing. That's how I work that.
Thank you. Perfectly timed. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Gross. I use she, her pronouns. I'm coming to you from my home office where I am the executive director and founder of Move Through Yoga. We bring adaptive yoga to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We do that in schools and in day programs. And it is an honor to be a voting advisory council member. Visual description, I'm wearing a tie-dye logoed sweatshirt today. Wearing my hair back in a middle part. And that's about it. I am so happy to be here among you all. Thank you for having us. Brian and Michelle, thank you for leading such a great meeting always. And I'll pass it off.
Thanks so much. I just got over the cooties myself, so yeah,
Oh.
yeah. All right, Julissa, would you please come say hello? Please be patient. We have some technology to navigate for that to happen.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julissa Soto, and I'm a voting member, and I'm also part of the Bridge Initiative Subcommittee, which focuses on immigration and outreach. A visual description of me: I'm a beautiful Latina woman, full of energy, love the red lipstick, even though I don't have red lipstick today, but just visual me in red lipstick. I'm wearing a black turtleneck because it's cold. I don't like wearing turtlenecks because I love being sexy every day, and the turtleneck does not make me feel sexy. But I'm a very sexy Latina woman that believes in the Lord, that believes in living life. I smell always really, really good. I love perfumes. I have around 180 perfume. So just imagine me collecting perfumes and love to have fun, love to live life. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you guys.
And the party has started very well. Done. I see you all
Right?
figured out the reactions, and so Adriana, por favor, dilo hola, and then after Adriana, Chris will call on you.
Hola, soy Adriana de la Torre. Soy miembro con derecho a voto. Tengo un hijo con una discapacidad. Soy miembro activo en la comunidad. Hoy traigo una camiseta blanco con negro a rayas. Y me encanta estar aquí.
Excelente. Gracias. And notice in the chat, Michaela just covered me on something I forgot. Remember that screen that said you can toggle between English and Spanish? I forgot to remind you about that because you could have heard the interpreter speaking in English to interpret what she said. I just forgot to instruct you about that. Please forgive. Discúlpame. And Christopher, would you like to come say hello?
Do you want to finish your sentence?
T-E-A-C-H.
All right, you want to say it all together?
I am Chris Patton. I using him. I have curly hair. I am here to teach.
Awesome. Thanks for saying hi, Chris. And Alyssa supporting him. Am I correct? Is that Alyssa there with him?
Correct.
The thumbs up. I saw
Yeah.
it. Right on. Right on. All right. Thank you both. So I'm calling on voting members, and Alexa, would you please come say hello?
Thanks, Brian. Hi, I'm Alexa Gagne. So sorry I'm off camera today. I've just got a sick kiddo at home. So I am going to do my best just to join and participate as much as possible today. I am a white female in my 40s, today wearing a green and white striped t-shirt. And I serve on this wonderful council on behalf of my 3.5-year-old daughter, Colette, who has Down syndrome, and really appreciate all of you and everyone's efforts in this whole process. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. And what a great example. Participate at the level you're able to. And you know what? Some days are different from another time.
So true.
Yeah, I'm a middle-aged white guy and I am an autistic artist. And so that's Brian B.E., like be who you are. My born last name is Bernard. You'll see that if you email me at the university. I do work in the field of IDD and education, such as in interdisciplinary healthcare. And I'm a person who has received support services and provided support services at different times over my life. I think I got all of the voting members. Can you back me up, Michaela? Did we do that?
Hi, everyone. This is Michaela speaking. I do think we've heard from everyone. Is there anyone that didn't have a chance to introduce themselves on the council?
Oh, Alicia,
And
please.
Kisley.
Right.
Hi.
Alicia.
Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alicia Cooper. I am a transport from North Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been here 8 years. You may hear North Kakalaki accent every now and again, but that's okay. Or German, whichever one. I am wearing a maroon wrap shirt today. I am a light-skinned Black female in her 40s with brown eyes, low haircut today, but unfortunately you will not be able to see it because I have a wonderful paisley maroon scarf on my head today with Black headphones. My experience as a chair for Denver Commission for People with Disabilities. I am also an advocate and a caregiver for my brother who lives with TBI for the past 10 years. So I am happy to be here as a voting member and also full of life and a goofy person. So I love, I just love hanging out and seeing you all every month. It brings me joy.
Oh, that's worth a heart. Right on. And thank you for raising your hand when I said we got everybody and voicing up. That's really what this council is about. And Kisley, would you like to please come say hello? A non-voting member.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Kisley Blue, and I'm the Mill Levy Program Manager here at Rocky Mount Human Services. Actually, getting ready to celebrate 10 years here at the organization. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a Black woman in my 40s, and I'm here in my home office wearing mostly white today. And like Brian mentioned, I am a non-voting member. Thanks for having me here. Thanks.
Lovely. I meant to do something on that last introduction, Alicia. She said TBI, traumatic brain injury. If you hear us use some jargon and you're like, huh, what? Feel free to ask in the chat, what? Or raise your electronic hand. You might practice that right now under reactions. I just raised my electronic hand. I think for you guys it shows right there. For me, it shows over there. Um, or put it in the chat. We want to try to be less acronym and more plain language. Do we have anybody else, Michaela, you had a chance to introduce? Is there anybody else from speakers or DHS that we want to do now, or are we complete with intro?
Hey, yeah, since we're a little bit short on time, I'm sorry, this is Michaela speaking. Us staff members will just put our introductions in the chat so that we can get on with the program. But we're all happy to be here.
Thank you, Michaela. And remind me, can visitors put their information in the chat too? I just don't remember if they have access to that.
Unfortunately, no, our guest members from the public don't have access from the chat. Although for those of you who have attended, we're so grateful that you're here.
Absolutely. Yeah. For those of you that are visiting and you don't have access, please know that that's just a technical thing that we have to do. But if we were in physical space together, we'd love to say hi and welcome you. And so this is me saying hi and welcome. And then those of you who do have access to the chat, as Michaela said, you can put your introductions in there. I've been seeing some of that happen. Even voting members could do so if you wish in writing. All right, we are now at reviewing the notes that happened from the last time we met. So we ask you to go pull up those notes, and then we will do a vote in the chat. So first, a pause for you to pull up those notes and look at them. And if there are questions or comments or edits, please either unmute and speak to me or the group, or raise your electronic hand. You don't need me to call on you, so just feel free to unmute and talk to us. As Michaela mentioned, we are running a bit behind in time. Introductions seem to take longer than usual. Then what it would be a lot for. All right, then let's, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from a voting member, please?
This is Seth. I motion to approve.
Thank you, Seth. And a second.
This is Michelle. Do may I vote to my motion? My second his motion. His motion.
Excellent. Please, in the chat, voting members, put yes or no for your vote, or abstain. Four votes in the chat. How many am I looking for, Michaela? Do we have 7 members here?
Sorry, Brian. This is Michaela coming off mute finally. Yeah, I believe we have 7. Is that correct? Team?
Okay.
So we
Well,
would
got
need,
6 votes.
okay,
So, and there's
6
7.
affirmative.
Yeah. We've got 6 yeses and 1 abstain.
Okay. Yep.
So I
So
think
we're good.
Yep, we're good. All right. Thank you for reviewing the notes and voting in the chat for the meeting minutes from the last time we met. And then Stephanie altered her vote. So thank you for, and let me just check real quick. Everybody changed. Look at us. We're learning how to unmute, and we changed it from hosts and panelists to everyone. Wow. Give yourselves a star. All right. Next slide, please. Breathing in uncertainty. Breathing during and within uncertainty. This is an opportunity for voting members to speak to us for a couple minutes to say hello to any big issues, maybe something in the news, maybe something in your life. Let's be mindful, let's be intentional, and let's be human, and yet also professional. Anything someone wants to say? If you're new to this, you're like, what? What's supposed to happen right now? If you're getting used to it, you're like, oh yeah, here's that time. Living with IDD, navigating the funding and the mill levy, navigating school, navigating support services can be a lot, all on its own. And then add in some other times things happening in life and unplanned. And this is a chance just for us to share if you wish to. I'll share that I'm getting some support services that I've needed for decades. And it's both awesome and it's also terrifying. And it's challenging to keep showing up for my part of all the steps. Sometimes you get what you ask for. Any others? Okay. Well, We offer this space now on a camera on a recorded line, but this space is available to you besides right here and right now. Email me, call me. I got to put my info in the chat. I'll probably do that on break. Reach out to Michaela, reach out to Michelle, reach out to your fellow leaders on the advisory council. Council member updates. Please keep your announcements brief and avoid advertising individual interests, especially financial interests. Michaela, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, everyone. This is Michaela. Brian and Michelle, I was just looking at the time, and we have a guest presenter here today who is scheduled to present from about 1:30 to 2. And so I was wondering if you both would consider saving our updates until after public comment. We have one person signed up for public comment today, so that will be 3 minutes, and that would give us 17 additional minutes for the council member updates, if that sounds like an okay plan to the both of you.
I think that's awesome, especially since we're out of order. So that's great. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right, awesome. So we'll come back to these updates and announcements, community things going on, and let's go over to our speaker. And thank you to our speaker for your kind accommodation with our time frame and being a little bit off. Let's turn it over for sensory friendly Denver. Shannon Sullivan, please come say hello.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Should I share my screen right now so that I can advance slides?
I would say up to you. You can ask them to advance, or you can, do you have a preference, Shannon? Or Lynn, for that matter? Do we have a preference?
This is Mick. Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
This is Jordan. Hi, Shannon. I'm happy to advance if you just want to, while I have it on, and then I may kind of give you some time checks too, just to keep things flowing. But I have it up, so I'm happy to keep it going.
Okay, thanks, Jordan.
And Shannon, just for a little context, we tried to retain the presentation within the DHS network just to avoid security lapses after our Zoom bombing last year. So that's the reason we have everything centralized. So apologies for that.
Oh, no, of course, no problem at all.
And Shannon, would you mind greatly if we took maybe a quick 1 or 2 minute movement break before we get in so that we can all make sure that we're able to pay attention fully and be present for your presentation?
Always in favor of that. Sounds great.
Okay, wonderful. Brian, Michelle, couple minutes. Does that okay for the both of you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yep.
Okay, 1:38 then we'll be back. Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and leave my camera on and offer some examples. Feel free to tune me out. Do whatever it is you need to do. So I was seated. I've come to standing. And I'm just going to do a lengthening, take a breath, stretch. Stephanie will probably invite you to guide us and facilitate one of these. Reaching down towards my knees.
You crack me up, Brian.
And thank you to those that offered this suggestion. Let's see, you can't see this as I'm down below the camera. But, just letting my head hang down a bit and my shoulders a bit. If you're in the professional world for this, you might call it a kind of a version of cat-cow. I am not in the professional world for this. Letting my spine round over and then flattening. Bending my knees a bit. Do these movement breaks actually help our brain? Yes, actually, research shows that it does. Now my arms out to the side. And I might put one palm up and one down. Gently. And reverse. The other palm up, the other down. Keep my neck soft. Arms behind me. In front. and some rotational movement. Twisting my spine, my neck gently, letting my spine be long. Looking over the other shoulder, twisting the other way. I may wish to raise my knees up, one side, the other side. Perhaps raise my knee a little bit and over to the side, rotating outward. Maybe pump my feet a bit, going up on my toe, which I can do standing and the whole thing goes up and down, or I can just do one leg at a time. Thank you for joining me for any movement session, whether you listened or did your own thing. We're going to come back from our break and go to our speaker. And just to set our time expectations, Michaela, can you help me on this, or Jordan, whoever feels suitable? Are we going to then go to 10 minutes after and allot that full 30 minutes?
This is Jordan. Yeah, we'll give Shannon her full 30. I think she'll have about 20 minutes to present and 10 for questions, and then we'll take a break and resume with the next agenda item.
Excellent. Thank you all. And over to you, Shannon.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to present about the Sensory Friendly Denver project. Before I do, I feel like I'm behind in some of the bookkeeping. My name is Shannon Sullivan, and I go by the pronouns she, her, hers. Ella, I am a Spanish speaker. I'm a white woman in my 50s with dark brown hair, wearing kind of a blue or green yellow chartreuse, I guess, shirt, and some turquoise necklaces presenting from my home office, which I cleaned up behind me so that you wouldn't see what it actually looks like. I am the co-founder of the Autism Community Store, a social enterprise in Aurora that works to connect people with resources and one another. I'm the director of the Sensory Friendly Denver project that I'm going to be talking about today. And my most important affiliation, I'm the parent of two children who are neurodivergent, a daughter who is 23 and autistic with significant support needs. I'm also I'm a doctoral student in the College of Architecture and Planning, studying design of spaces for people who are neurodivergent. So this project is really personal and close to my heart in so many ways. And the goal of it is to promote access and inclusion for Denver residents with IDD and sensory challenges at public spaces throughout Denver. So even just looking at, IDEAS and what that acronym stands for, equitable access to services, equitable access to the community, and exploring what that means for people who have, for whom accessibility is kind of a complex notion. And so that's what we've been exploring and working toward for quite a few years now. Jordan, you can advance. There we go. So it is an IDEAS mill-levy funded project. The RFP was put out in 2019, shortly before COVID. So this is a rather long-running project because community access became something that was a challenge for everyone for a couple of years there. And certainly our Denver venues didn't really have capacity to take on other projects or even welcome people through their doors. But it's a project that grew out of a needs assessment, or the RFP out of a needs assessment, realizing that isolation was a real challenge for people with disabilities in Denver. And unfortunately, that challenge persists to this day. It comes out in all kinds of survey research, recent research from the Colorado Health Institute that surveyed 10,000 people, a survey that comes out every other year. found high levels of self-reported loneliness across the population, the numbers that are higher among people who have disabilities. And Denver residents actually showed the highest rates of loneliness. And it's really, more and more being seen as a health issue. It goes beyond just, oh, I'd love to be able to go to the movies. These are really fundamental issues that impact families' mental and physical well-being. And so exploring how this large portion of the population, of the disability population who have sensory processing challenges, what are the barriers to them accessing community venues and community spaces, and how can we work to improve that accessibility? That's been at the root of the project. Jordan, you can advance. So the power of the project, I would say, is rooted in the deep stakeholder engagement and stakeholder involvement that's been part of the process from the beginning. Starting with the fact that the work is being done by the Autism Community Store and our inclusion team and our affiliates, all of whom are either people who are autistic or parents and caregivers of those people. We've also had focus groups over, focusing on different topics. And the entire project began with a really robust public survey. We had 117 responses, and that really underpinned a lot of the work that we've done and how we focused the project and the trainings and the assessments that we do. In addition to that, stakeholder engagement, the broader stakeholder engagement that's framed the project, we engage stakeholders for each individual site whenever that is feasible, whenever there's going to be a large enough group of people who can weigh in on, what are the challenges of visiting the library, or what are the challenges of visiting the Wings Over the Rockies Museum. You can advance, Jordan. So as part of that original survey that I mentioned, where we had quite a few responses, the majority were parents or caregivers, but we did have a reasonable portion, about 13% who were self-advocates and others who identified as other. Okay. And in that survey, among other things, we asked where people like to go out in public. What are the kind of places that they like to go? We also asked them how often they go out in public. And this, at first glance, these results are not, are somewhat encouraging. You see that, a total of almost 40% of the people go out 1 to 2 days a week, that you have 25% who are out all the time. But the numbers that really troubled me, and do to this day, are the numbers that are shown in the orange box, where about 20% of the people who responded say they don't go out very much, maybe just a couple of times a month, or they try not to go out at all if they can avoid it, maybe once a month or less. So there's a significant portion of our community who just, they don't go. So they don't go out. They're not gonna be responding to QR codes that are posted in different places. And so really looking at who are these people who are experiencing profound isolation, and knowing that that's out there, and how can we try to create a Denver that is more welcoming for everyone, to try to get people out in community, which we know is so important and so health giving. Next slide. As I mentioned before, these results are really bolstered by additional research. This is a slide from the Colorado Developmental Disabilities Council, a survey that they did recently, looking at even when people are out in community, that maybe 65% of them answered that they don't really, or they don't feel included when they're out, that maybe they feel included, or that they don't feel included when they're out in community, and that 65% of them maybe don't feel like they belong, or answered maybe to whether they feel like they belong in community. So getting people out in community, and then what is their experience when they're in community? How do you create belonging? Next slide. So I just wanted to set the stage, for why is this work important? Why is it really vital when you have such a proportion of the population that's experiencing loneliness, that's reluctant to go out to community, and when they are out in community, they don't necessarily feel like they belong there. So one of the other questions we asked our stakeholders at the beginning of the project was where their favorite places to go out in the community. The two top responses were both outdoor venues, parks or outdoor recreation, zoo, art, or nature outdoor exhibits. So that was interesting to us, and makes sense. I think it's logical. A lot of times outdoor spaces are more comfortable for people who have sensory challenges. We evolved in nature, it's natural lighting. The following after that were museums, friends or relative house, restaurants, libraries, recreation or indoor centers, movies, and then shopping malls, and you get down to things, to other responses. Next slide. So our goal with the Sensory Friendly Denver project was to really work with a wide variety of venues, so that we were really working to create spaces that captured kind of the diversity of interests and places that were considered favorite places of people. So you'll see on this slide, there's some outdoor venues that we worked with, like the Denver Botanic Gardens, Future Fest, the Shine Music Festival, some day programs that we worked with during COVID when we kind of pivoted to work with some day programs, including Jewish Family Service and Activity Options. Some of the museums have included the Denver Art Museum, Wings Over the Rockies, Clifford Still Museum, and the Molly Brown House Museum. Some theaters or places where you see performances include the C Film Center, Denver Films Nonprofit Film Center, Colorado Ballet. Some activities, the Special Olympics Colorado and the Art Students League of Denver, a nonprofit organization that provides classes in art and camps and exhibits. And then some community hubs, including the airport and some of the Denver Public Library branches. So the framework that we take with the Sensory Friendly Denver project is called the Access Framework. It's something that we developed in our effort to look at what accessibility really means to people who do not have physical accessibility, mobility challenges, but sensory challenges. So what are the different components? How do we create? And on the screen, you'll see a picture of a ramp, which is the metaphor that we use for how do you create access for people whose disabilities are invisible, and they really involve sensory processing and information processing challenges. And so the framework that happens to fit into the NICE Access acronym includes the components of acceptance, competence, comfort, engagement, safety, and sensory supports. I'm not going to go into all of those in a lot of detail. Most of them are fairly obvious. Acceptance is just, how does the public treat you, and how do staff members treat you? Like, do you feel welcome in a place? Do you get lots of stares? Social stigma is something that accompanies the experience of individuals and families in the autism community. Some of us, like myself, have children who may not always act in a way that completely matches social norms. And I'll say as an aside that I give tons of credit to the organizations that have partnered with us. When you have a place like an art museum that has precious works, and they're trying to figure out how to, welcome our community who may or may not respect boundaries and may or may not understand whether or not they can touch the art, who wants to welcome all of us into quiet public spaces where other people are, trying to read or study. It's work that needs to be done, but it's also complex. And I just give so much credit to the organizations who have been wanting to engage in this work, where you're trying to meet multiple needs and respect lots of different needs at the same time. So competence is really the most complex to wrap your head around, but that's where I think some of the low-hanging fruit lies. I always say in the trainings, that involves just helping to keep people's experience of getting to a place and being there as simple as possible. So things like, ease of parking, ease of public transportation, knowing where to go, being able to find the entrance, being able to do all of those things, I think leaves people space to be able to deal with the inevitable sensory challenges that are going to exist in any public location. Comfort is what we think about as standard. Too loud, too bright, what we think of as the sensory environment. Engagement is what happens when all the things are working and people are truly engaging meaningfully at the destination. Safety, again, is complex. It's emotional safety, it's physical safety, it's what makes people feel like they are comfortable being there. And then sensory supports are the things that you can add on to help mitigate the challenges of a space, like headphones or something commonly thought of, fidgets. It really varies depending upon the location. Okay, next slide, Johnny. So the work with the different community partner organizations involves a sensory site assessment, which is completed by our inclusion team and also underpinned by stakeholder engagement. That results in an audit or report of the sensory challenges of the space that includes recommendations for how to improve it. There's a staff training and ongoing consultation with the organization. And then sensory supports or sensory equipment are provided as needed and appropriate. It's very individualized for each location. Jordan? In terms of the impact, we've worked with 15 organizations representing diverse recreational kinds of proclivities. We've trained over 300 staff members in the city of Denver. Sensory equipment has been provided to 13 different locations. 7 sensory spaces have been created. That was one of the things that was highly endorsed by our stakeholder engagement as being something that helps make spaces welcoming. Our post-project results show that 100% of the community partners are satisfied with their work with the Sensory Friendly Denver project. And the hope is that we've increased community access for Denver residents with IDD and sensory challenges through this deep consultation and work with these organizations. And I just want to point out on the right is a picture on the top side of my daughter at the Wings Museum during one of our visits. I think the body language kind of shows a lot. She's sitting on a hard bench with her hoodie over her head and her fingers in her ears, her communication device on a round table. And below that is a picture I took recently at the Wings Museum. One of our recommendations, when I say that sensory equipment can be, we define it really broadly. Oftentimes it includes a comfortable place to sit. That's something that's really important to people. And this is furniture that you see below. A comfortable kind of sectional sofa was not provided through IDEAS funding, but it was one of the big recommendations that we made and that came out of our stakeholder engagement was that there needed to be more places to sit comfortably at the Wings over the Rockies Museum. So you can see that they did that throughout the museum and it's being well utilized by the public. Next slide, Jordan.
Thanks, Shannon. Just wanted to let you know you have about 5 minutes.
Perfect. This slide is really overwhelming, but just to show that we did, with each of the trainings, we did a pre and a post survey to see how much knowledge had moved as a result of the training. And we found a 20% increase in understanding, 19% increase in understanding, 18 in knowledge, 26% increase in confidence, in people's confidence in their ability to interact with people who have sensory processing differences and IDD. And on a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree, with strongly agree being 5, the response to training was helpful was a 4.8 on average. This was across all 300 trainees, and 100% agreed that, or strongly agreed that the training had been helpful. Next slide. The sensory tools that have been, and equipment that have been provided include things like the sensory processing and autism resource kit backpacks. We've tried to keep the branding the same on that because they're available across many Denver destinations, so people know that they can ask for the backpacks at different locations, or really start to have the expectations that those will be available. As I mentioned before, it can take a lot of different forms, what the sensory equipment is that's provided depending upon the needs of the location. Next slide. In some cases, that has included the design and creation of sensory rooms, whether they're permanent sensory spaces or mobile sensory areas, depending upon the needs and the capacity of the organizations. These have been created in 7 Denver locations. A couple of them are still being built out at the Central Children's Library and at the C Film Center. And as I mentioned before, the community partner satisfaction has been 100%. They've all agreed that they were happy to be participated. They've felt that it helps neurodivergent staff feel seen, which was an outcome that I didn't necessarily completely anticipate, but that has really come through in evaluations across the partner sites. So I think that it also has really helped increase potentially increase employment opportunities for people with IDD who are neurodivergent. It's helped the organization, it's helped increase their understanding and understanding of sensory processing differences and ability to meet those visitors' needs. They felt the sensory equipment was helpful, the training was helpful, and the sensory site assessment. So all the various components of the project that the community partners have felt have been useful to them. And this is some of the feedback that we've received. I know you're reading it, so I hate to read it over the top of what you're already looking at visually. What I will say is that I think I've been most touched by some of the feedback where people really are talking about how there's been cultural change, and that's really the goal. You know, if you can look to change what how a culture, how an organization perceives accessibility and create the desire to work to increase access for all users and increase confidence among the staff in being able to welcome those users, then I think that's the ultimate goal, and that's what's going to help bridge this gap and get people to access public spaces. I'll say one more thing that comes out of the research that we did, and is that there's this deep longing. People talked about all of those places that are their favorite places in the community, but alongside that, many of them don't actually go. You know, not just the 20% who stay home, but there's this sort of deep longing is what I've perceived and what the research has shown us, to be part of community, to be out there. And oftentimes all it takes is a successful visit, you know, and then you add another safe space to your list. This is me also speaking as a parent. Like, I can go there, I can go to this place. And I think that's where step by step you make this meaningful difference. And my belief is that the Sensory Friendly Denver project has increased the number of safe spaces for families and individuals in Denver, and that's going to have really meaningful implications for physical and emotional well-being. Thank you. This is my contact information if anyone would like more information about the Sensory Friendly Denver project or the work that we're doing. And the other thing that I'll add is that Brian B., what is my training partner, so you can imagine how awesome those trainings are. He is the one keeps everyone engaged, and probably the reason that the ratings are so high for the trainings. And I'm the wonky one who talks about all the science behind it. So.
Thank you so much, Shannon. To reiterate that, she brings the data, I bring the smiles. Together, it's a presentation worth going to. Shannon, I'd like to let you moderate this Q&A session unless you want me to, like you can see some hands that are raised. Would you like to do it or would you like me to support you that way?
You can totally support me if you don't mind in that way.
Okay. All right, Michelle.
Shannon, thank you so much for that. Good to see you again, friend. Just a quick question. For those of us that are not totally familiar, Shannon, could you give the other 5 locations? You mentioned a couple. Would you mind giving the locations for the, would
The
you
sensory?
mind? Yes, mentioning the other locations for the sensory places.
Yes, absolutely. So 2 are at day programs, so they're not publicly accessible. One is Activity Options and one is the Jewish Family Service ACE day program. C Film Center, I mentioned, Central Children's Library. And then 3 that were created that are kind of temporary or mobile spaces at the Art Students League of Denver. So we created a design of kind of a mobile sensory area that could be moved between studios as needed, depending upon who was taking the classes. The Clifford Still Museum, and that space will be located in their makers space. And the Special Olympics Colorado, we designed a sensory tent that could be used at their youth summit and taken to other events that they do in the city.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you and your team are doing. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Michelle. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Big thanks to Jordan for displaying our technology in a way that helps keep us safe from some other experiences that we've had, and the team that's all behind that. I put a couple of things in the chat. I put my work email and phone number. I put some phrases that Shannon was using as we went along. She said things like neurodivergent. I put a welcome to Jonathan. Really glad to have you, and thanks for introducing in the chat. And then she mentioned sensory friendly, and just a brief description of that. Questions? Comments? Sensory friendly Denver?
I'll add one thing about the name sensory friendly. That was one of the questions that we included in some of the initial research, and that was included in some of the follow-up surveys was what terminology people preferred to use, whether it was sensory friendly or sensory inclusive. We use all the terms and they all have value to them, but the strong winner was sensory friendly. So there's something that's colloquial about that, that's understandable to people. And that's the reason that we've continued to use that terminology.
And we have a sign language clapping going on from Michelle and some electronic Zoom clapping emojis floating around. Any other questions or comments? Sensory friendly Denver trainings, physical spaces, setting them up. I'll add a personal comment. Even though I've been involved in this project longer than I've even been involved in the IDEAS Advisory Council, I feel like the presentation today made it clear to me that Denver residents were talking about loneliness. Did that surprise some of you? Denver's known for like the place, you move there if you want to ride your mountain bike, move there if you want to go hiking and skiing and bungee surf under rock wind blowing. I don't know, all the outdoor things. And yet to hear in our population, our community, IDD, a lot saying loneliness. And I would guess it's not just IDD, but that my eyes got big on that one. Any other comments, questions? Well, I work in healthcare, and loneliness is a big deal. It sounds like, so what? So you're lonely. Okay, well, it actually kills, like healthcare measurables or what's called social determinants of health and other ways. Like it's a huge risk factor for a lot of things. All right, well, we are at the end of that presentation time. Join me once again to thank Shannon for her work and her presentation today. On the screen is her email and her contact, Shannon at autismcommunitystore.com. I'd like to take this time before we go to the break to just mention something. Michelle and I will be stepping off in a couple of months as co-chairs, which means your leadership matters. There will be a time for you to put yourself forward or one of your fellows as a co-chair come spring of 2026. Wait a minute, Brian B., 2026? I'm not ready. Let me finish December. Okay, that's why I'm telling you now. Give you a chance to absorb it. And I just wanted to highlight that one of the things I do as a leader, or being even a voting member on this council, is I declare in advance any conflict of interest or even what could be perceived as a conflict of interest, financial or otherwise. So if this is told in advance to Denver Human Services, then they have a chance to evaluate, all right, what do we want to do here? Does this look like a person trying to bring themselves more money? That's what we're trying to not do. All right, so let's take a 5-minute break. This is a chance to turn your camera off if you wish, um, biological break, or even chat with anyone else who's here. Thank you. And Michaela, thanks for your remark there in the chat. All right, let's start a 5-minute break.
Return at 2:16. Is that right, Brian?
Let's do that.
All right, see y'all soon.
About one more minute and we will come back.
And Brian, over here, if we did a little stretch break
Yeah,
following
baby.
your excellent modeling of taking care of all of you.
Right on. Right on.
There was a stretch break happen over here at DHS.
Yay, DHS. Move. I like to move. Hey, Lynn, do you see that I'm displaying a timer right now?
You are very clever.
Yeah. Why have we not been doing that for years? But
I don't know, because we needed Brian, we need you show us the way.
wow.
Cool.
Here we
Thank
go.
you.
Here we go. There's a couple things I'm useful at. So
You're
yeah, let's remember that for future breaks. Let's display the Zoom timer. So about
excellent.
5 more seconds, folks, and then we'll come back and re-meet.
I
Oops.
love
Then I'm not a fan of that music playing.
That is so epic. I love it.
The re-meet.
The timer
Oh,
bell.
the music. You like the
Yeah,
music?
it's so epic.
You can change the sound and yeah.
That one's perfect.
All right. All right. Welcome back, folks. Come on back for IDEAS Advisory Council, Community Advisory Council. Continuing. Can we advance to our next slide, please? All right. Big picture. And for this council. And I don't remember what we talked about. I was there for the preparation, but I'm going to need the slides to advance to prompt my thinking what we're doing now. Or Michaela, if you jump in.
Yep, and I can tag team with you,
Okay.
Brian and Michelle, anytime you want to join in too, or welcome you. So, Jordan, if you want to head back a slide real quick. I'll just use this image to kind of center our conversation. I found this online, and you can see a picture of a forest. I actually think it's somewhere in Wyoming, in the mountains. And I wanted us to take a moment to kind of take a zoom out. You can see my hands are getting really high to look at the entire forest. And I'm using that as a metaphor for the landscape of ideas and the work that we do. And during the last few meetings, we've been talking a lot about very precise language in the bylaws. We've been, sometimes it's called, we refer it to the weeds. That means that we've been talking a lot in detail about different jargon or language and procedure. Chris, the word that I'm thinking of is dull words, dreary words, right? And so I wanted us to just kind of recognize that and pause that we've been in the trees. These are the details. There's a phrase that says you can't see the forest for the trees. And my understanding of that is that means you've been in the details so much that you lose sight of the big picture. You can't see the forest. So let's just take a look at the forest for a moment. Anything to add to that, Brian or Michelle?
No, I did put it in the chat, the public facing IDEAS webpage. As a voting member, sometimes I can forget because I get so in the forest. What does it look like when you're outside the forest looking at it? And so I just put that brief description and then the link to that. So voting members, please store that somewhere and have that handy when you're talking about where were you on that Tuesday? I was at the IDEAS. Oh, what's that? Draw from that language so that you can answer when people say, what's that?
There you go. So this next session, we're going to just kind of engage a little bit in a revisiting what our big picture is. What is the forest of ideas? And then we're going to take that back to our conversation on subcommittees. And I wanted to let you know, Brian and Michelle, I'm not sure if you got my message over break. We did have someone signed up for public comment. Unfortunately, they won't be able to make it. They send their apologies, but are planning to join us in January. So we don't have any other public comment today. We had slated half an hour for this conversation. So if it's all right with everyone, I think we will go to maybe we can go to 2:45 to make sure we have time for planning for January.
Okay.
Does that sound all right? And we could maybe take a little bit of a break at 2:45 just to shake off and move our bodies. Okay. All
Shake
right.
it off. That's the
Shake it
song you
off.
gave me.
Shake it off. All right.
Jordan, I like that neck movement. Well done.
All right. Next slide, please, Jordan. All right. So on this slide, I have a snippet from the Denver Revised Municipal Code. So that's basically the law of Denver. And that's really what gives our program its purpose. Our purpose is to procure services and supports for the benefits of eligible persons. More dreary words for sure. What that really means is that we have to find and work to put into place the services and the resources and supports that folks need. And then as part of that, we, if we're kind of look at like what does that mean and what are the additional duties, we will monitor those programs that we have found, monitor those services, evaluate if they're meeting the need that's out there, and make sure that those entities that we are paying to provide those services are doing what we want them to do, doing what we've paid them to do. So enforcing those contracts. Anything to add on that, Michelle or Brian?
No, I like it.
Okay. Next slide, please, Jordan. So back in, I believe it was 2018, 2019, when the IDEAS program first sat the advisory council, they said, well, we need the community, people with lived experience of IDD and their communities to tell us what it is that they want and need. We sat an advisory council and we created advisory council bylaws, which you all recently voted to amend. And the bylaws are really the laws and the rules of the advisory council, right? So they tell the council what they're supposed to do, what they have the authority and responsibility to do. And if something isn't stated in there, that means that it's not really part of the advisory council's work. So the two big statements that I decided to pull out of our bylaws for today's conversation were the council exists to provide a voice for and state the desire of members of the community to inform the use of dedicated mill levy funds. And that's in the first page when it talks about the purpose. And then later on in the bylaws, it says that the council exists to make recommendations on needs to address and opportunities to explore. So that's the core purpose of the advisory council existence, and what we, Jordan and Lynn and I, look to the council to do when we are working to actually procure these funds to find folks that are providing those services and monitor and enforce the contracts. Brian, Michelle, would you like to speak a little bit to what those two statements mean to you?
So I'd actually like to speak to the framework, not necessarily to the statements,
Mm-hmm.
because the creation of the subcommittees is, relatively new. So I think I'd like to step back, if it's okay, just a couple of
Mm-hmm.
steps to say why are we here? Why are we looking at these slides?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And when we think about how the subcommittees are to function, this language and these slides provide guidance to making sure that all of the subcommittees are expressing their work in the same manner. So these words and these slides are to, if you think about bowling, and if you've ever bowled with the bumpers on, these are verbal bumpers to guide the expression of the work that the subcommittee is doing. And so this is why they are being presented, so that every subcommittee can share out with the community and ask for us to support that work by putting all of the language inside of these bumpers. I hope that's helpful.
I love that metaphor. Thank you, Michelle. We've got forests and we've got bowling lanes today, folks. It's a
We've
good
got
day.
bowling, we've got forests. So if this is what we do, then we're going to talk about what we do not do. If this is where we bowl, we're going to talk about other lanes where we do not bowl. Other bowlers bowl there, not the IDDEAS Advisory Council.
Perfect. So that is a great segue into the next slide, please, Jordan. Perfect. So activities that are outside of our scope, that are not within the lane that we're bowling on, include things like outside advocacy. And I say outside advocacy because you all are doing a fabulous job of advocating for the wants and needs of your community within this council. Although we don't have the authority to be doing advocacy work in other places, in other city, state governments, federal government, other organizations. We're not an advocacy organization. We exist to fund different services and supports. Similarly, we're not tasked with implementing or exploring policy change, with doing any sort of direct community organization or education ourselves, although in some way, so we may contract, we might pay other organizations to provide some community education based on the recommendations that you provide. So Sensory Friendly Denver is a great example of that. We contracted with Autism Community Store to run the Sensory Friendly Denver program to educate different venues on how to better serve our community and make these spaces more inclusive. But we ourselves are not doing that education. We're finding the experts out there that are going to do the work directly. Similar with resource navigation. We're not in a position where folks that are needing services can come to us and we'll tell you exactly where to go. We want the community to be able to go directly to the programs that are providing the services themselves, so they don't have to go through a middle person, right? There's enough navigating that folks in our community have to do without having to go through an extra step. We want folks to be connecting directly, and if there is a need for resource navigation, we want to see how we can work to find city partners that we can contract with our funds to do that if that is a need. And then the last thing is just to provide assessments of non-mill levy funded organizations. There's a lot of different organizations in this space. There's a lot of different opinions about how well they're doing their work, which are not invalid at all, but this space is not to provide assessments of those. There might be an occasion where we're going to seek your input on programs that we're already funding to determine, are we hitting that mark? And that's part of the contract monitoring and evaluation part, right? Are we accomplishing the goals that we originally sought out to achieve through our funding partnerships with these outside agencies? But if there's an agency that is maybe providing subject matter expertise, or that is folks are engaged with in some manner but isn't funded by IDEAS, this really isn't the space to state opinions about them one way or another. Any thoughts on that, Brian or Michelle, to add?
Beautifully summarized. That was my thought. This is Michelle.
Yeah, this is Brian B. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge some big picture things. This IDDEAS is the Community Advisory Council. When Denver Human Services wishes to get legal counsel, they'll get it there. When they wish to get technical consultants or advice or support, they'll get it there. We are not legal or technical, and there's a lot of other things that we are not. We are the Community Advisory Council. Residents, people, family members, and individuals with disabilities, and we might not know the jargon. That's okay. That's okay. Feel free to share your voice at whatever language, whatever knowledge that you're at. And even though this is a bullet list, and thank you for putting these slides together, Michaela and team, 5 things that we do not do, I'm going to freely acknowledge you'll when you're here, you'll be like, well, wait a minute, that thing that we were doing, wasn't that a level of education? Wasn't that a level of navigating resources? Okay, you might have that experience. I've had that experience, just knowing that as a whole group, this is not our directive. It is not a main thing that we are here to do. That's my brief comment about that.
Thanks, Brian. That's helpful. And I think you raise a great point that a lot of this work isn't black and white, right? There's a lot of gray in the work that we do. And so sometimes we might have to have some conversation around it, right? Because it isn't super clear. Is this within our scope or is it not? And that's when we have conversations like these and we take a look at the big picture again. We put our bumpers up for our lane and we figure out what it is that we're tasked to do and what it is that maybe we're not.
Yeah.
So Jordan, if you don't mind to go to the next slide, please. So as Michelle mentioned, we're going to bring this back to our subcommittee work and kind of think about our subcommittees in the context of this bigger picture. So during the last meeting, we asked you all to propose subcommittee ideas, or ideas for subcommittees rather, I apologize, and to provide language for, or provide kind of a proposal for these subcommittees that contained the objectives and the duties. What's important to think about when you're doing that is that those objectives and duties have to align with the purpose and scope of the IDEAS program and the advisory committee. So if we have subcommittees with duties or objectives that are outside of the scope, unfortunately, Jordan, Lynn, and I, we won't be able to use them. We won't be able to run them up and really take action on them because we don't have the authority to do that type of work in our program. Next slide, please.
Before you do, may I iterate?
Yes, please.
Sometimes we come to this advisory council and we have our passion and we have our thoughts and our plan, and we say, hey, how about this thing? And sometimes the folks that help run this have to say to us, no, that's not what we do. We would love your voice on these other things.
Exactly. And I can say in my own personal life too, there's definitely been times where I've been engaged in work where I've gotten super excited and super passionate and have wanted to take an idea and run with it because I care so much, and have been very grateful for gentle reminders of those around me to say, that's great, Michaela, and that's not something that we can do in this role. So what you're seeing in front of you is just a snippet from the bylaws that talk about the motions to create subcommittees, noting that they need to contain an objective, duties, and duration. And that'll play into the next slide, please. So as Jordan and Lynn and I were kind of debriefing the last meeting, and I was debriefing with Brian and Michelle, I thought, we could have done a better job at providing the council with a little bit more support and direction in coming up with these proposals. for you. And so we wanted to make it a little bit easier to craft these recommendations in a way that is aligned with the IDEAS program scope and with the bylaws. And so what we have come up with, and I want to give a shout out to both Jordan and Lynn for their amazing teamwork on this. Jordan for coming up with this amazing, what we like to call Mad Libs. I think, Michelle, you helped coin that too, a Mad Libs form, and then Lynn for being the tech fairy that made that happen. And Jordan, if you want to share that. She's going to just hop over to another window real quick. So here you, oh, go ahead, Jordan.
Just making sure you could see that.
Yeah, it's great. So here you have this subcommittee proposal form available in English on your left and Spanish on your right. So what we would like to request is that prior to bringing an idea for a subcommittee to the council, you write out your idea on this form. And you will put your name at the top, the date you're completing the form, and then we're going to look at two different types of objectives. So you're going to select just one here. The first can be to create a proposal to the council to create a new recommendation on the topic of, and that could be, whatever topic you think is not currently included in the list of recommendations, but needs to be. So on the topic of employment, inclusive employment, on the topic of transitions from youth services to adult services. Or as an alternative, you might think that there are some additional work or additional thoughts you'd like to bring to the IDEAS program staff on existing recommendations. And so in the email that I was sent out to you all, I think Lynn sent it out to you all yesterday. Thank you, because I had initially tried to send it on Friday and that email didn't go through. But in the email that you should have got yesterday that contained the agenda and the PowerPoint and the minutes from last month's meeting, there's also a list of recommendations. So you can look through those recommendations and say, we can see that there's already, I'd like to do a subcommittee on housing. There's a couple of recommendations on there already. Let's dig a little deeper into this number and this number. So that's the objective. And then if we're going to go to the duties section, this is where you can check all that apply. So we're pulling this language from different parts of the bylaws that state what the IDEAS Advisory Council has is within their purpose. So it can be to review and analyze different topics. It can be to coordinate feedback and conduct outreach to identify the views of interested parties to inform our discussion. So you're gathering feedback from a larger audience within the IDD community to share up with us. Or we might be kind of doing a deep dive into what laws already exist to make sure that the recommendations you're proposing align with those laws. So we're not doing policy advocacy or change, but just really understanding what's already in place to make sure if we're going to start funding a new program or a new service, we're not duplicating something that already exists or putting something out that will conflict with the laws that are in place. And then last but not least, you have a spot to enter in the duration, maximum of 6 months. I want to note too that we sent the recommendations out only in English, and I take accountability for that and offer my deepest apologies that we don't have that available in Spanish for that time. We need to work to add a new additional funds to our partnership with our translator. That can't happen until the first of the year, but that is, I will commit to get that translated as soon as I can once we have more funds available to us. Okay, and I see we've got just about 5 minutes left. So do we want to go ahead and share the example that you created, Jordan? Okay, and Jordan, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to share this since this is something that you drafted.
Sure. Hello, everyone. This is Jordan. I kind of pulled this together based on some conversations we've had in the last year or so around our existing housing recommendations. And some of you who are here may recall a presentation I did back in May on some of our work in developing housing or providing funding to support in developing housing for the IDD community. And this is kind of both with that in mind and as we work on this project, some more questions I have for you all to help again drive this work with community voice. And so using this form, I started with number one to motion to create a subcommittee with the objective to the second one, provide additional thoughts related to the following existing recommendations. And we just have numbers here, but I'll show those recommendations in a second. They're related to creating an IDD pilot housing project and incentivizing developers to build inclusive housing. Those were direct recommendations made by you all. And so going to number two, the duties of the subcommittee will be to the first one, review and analyze IDEAS proposed housing development funding priorities and provide feedback on how well they fit with the desires of the community. And so this was really because we have so much to talk about in these meetings all the time, and housing is so dense, and we never have enough time to get through it all. And we've heard that from you all. And so I think using an additional space like a subcommittee to help share what's going on inside DHS and what we're looking at and hear more about your thoughts on that would be super helpful in moving us forward. And as of now, just thinking the duration would be no more than 3 months, but assuming we may need more time, we can always look in 3 months and extend if we need to. And so this is again something we created, and if there is other ideas around this housing subcommittee that you think may fit better, we can always try to revise this form and see if that aligns more with what you all are hoping for. But I will pause there, see if Michaela, you have anything to add, or if anyone from the council has comments or thoughts. Go ahead, Michelle.
So, well, you call on Michaela first. Go ahead, Michaela. I can wait.
Nothing to add. Thank you, Jordan.
Okay. Okay, so this is Michelle. I just have a question, a clarifying question, Jordan. In number 3, it says the duration. It says the duration of the subcommittee will be no more than 3 months, maximum of 6 months. Is the it does I and I don't remember, and I'm not able to pull up, but in the subcommittee section of our bylaws, does it allow for, let's suppose we do 3 months, then we find, you know what, we actually need more than 3 months. Is the language non-confining? Does it allow for a subcommittee to do 3 months, maybe 3 months, maybe 3 months, maybe 3 months? Like, is it, if it takes a considerable amount of time, because as you said, housing is very dense. We've never seen any municipality build anything in less than, I don't know, 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, whatever. It's multiple years. So do our bylaws allow for, when it is a situation that's very dense, does it allow for the continuation of, or the dropping of for a few months and then the picking up again of the work that the subcommittee is doing?
Really good question. I think I think right now they mention up to 6 months and can be extended for an additional 6 months. Is that correct, Michaela?
That's correct.
So I'm not sure. I feel like that means at least a year we could extend for this subcommittee. Um, and um, I don't know if like having, less than 6 months would impact that year max.
No, I don't think so. Um, Michelle, for context, I think we put 3 months because the feedback that we're hoping to receive from you that's specific to this subcommittee and the recommendations that Jordan pulled out, we think we can likely gather within 3 months worth of meetings, but we can certainly always come back to the council and reference this exact proposal again and say we'd like to add another 3 to 6 months. So I don't think it's binding in that way at all.
And I'll also just mention if it feels more comfortable to the council, we can have it at 6 months now and just make space for that. And if by the fifth month we don't have anything to talk about, we don't have to have a meeting. But if you want to continue having discussions, and as you said, things are really dense, even if we've kind of hit that information earlier on, I think we're totally willing to extend it to 6 months.
I'm sorry, I'm poorly communicating, but I see that Seth has his hand raised. Seth, would you mind if I just ask one more clarifying because I'm thinking that I'm being misunderstood. I apologize. I'm not asking about the length of being 3 or 6 months. I was actually asking about how many times can the subcommittee revisit that work if the work is not finished. And we're talking about such a dense, I was using the example of housing being very dense, and that if the work is not finished, no matter if you give it 3 months or 6 months, do our bylaws confine the number of times in which an extension or a renewal can be made? That's what I was
Got
trying
it.
to clarify.
Got it. Thank you, Michelle. I understand now. So the way the bylaws are written right now, we have a one-time extension for 6 months. So one proposal could support a subcommittee for a total of 12 months or 1 year. I don't think there's anything in the bylaws that would prohibit someone from coming back and proposing the same council again. I think we would just need to revisit the duties and revisit the objective, and have a discussion about, how and why this needs to be extended before
Okay.
we're implementing it one more time. We just
Okay.
wouldn't be able to extend it again. We'd have to create a new subcommittee, if that makes sense, even if it might be addressing some of the similar sub objectives or duties.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah, this is Seth. I guess I just have a process question. So is the idea that we can submit this at any time and then it will be brought to the council to be approved or denied by vote, kind of?
Yeah, great question. I think yes. So the idea is that you all have this form available to you, and I think um, you could complete it at your leisure, and then send it either to me or to one of my colleagues, Jordan or Lynn, and or to one of your co-chairs, um, and they would make sure that that was brought to the next meeting for a vote.
I think
Alicia?
Alicia might be next.
Yes, just to go back on the timeline of it, I think I was looking at this the last time we met, and I dropped the ball kind of sort of and didn't send that
Yes.
proposal that I emailed, was supposed to email. So I'm wondering, now that I'm seeing this, would I add my thoughts to this form for amendment, or or am I just to separate and just send what I drew up about a couple of months ago? I'm just trying to figure out how to do this. because it is about
Was,
the housing.
oh, it's about housing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the clock. We've got about 10 minutes, so I don't know. I think we can do one of two things. We could either put this to a vote as is now, or Alicia, if you wanted to maybe offline with the co-chairs or myself and bring in your ideas to see if what you were thinking could be incorporated in this subcommittee, we could revisit it again in January.
Guess we can vote on it right now. I actually have the Google Doc was ready to go. But if we can vote on it right now and just make amendments later, that's also fine. I just want to make sure that
Just to
we're
clarify,
on the,
Alicia, did you have edits to what was proposed on the screen now, or did you have a new housing subcommittee proposal?
it was about housing. It looks like it could actually fit in what you have on the screen right now.
Okay.
And so I had already done the work a couple months ago. I just forgot to send it. Oops. So now I'm thinking like, if we approve this, what's on the screen, will we be able to amend it? I guess in January. Since we're on limited time, I'm going to be respectful of time.
I would say I think if there's a chance that we'd want to amend, perhaps we should just revisit it again in January so we can have more of a comprehensive discussion. And that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, oh no, I already had something. No, but that's fine.
Yeah, so Alicia, if you don't mind, I'd say perhaps reach out to Jordan to kind of share what your thoughts were. And then Jordan and I can work to bring that to the co-chairs so we can figure out what's the most efficient way to present both ideas to the council. If it is that we can maybe kind of combine all these things into one committee to be as efficient and effective as possible. That sounds all right to you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. And then along those same lines, we had so much really great discussion about the Bridges Initiative Subcommittee during the last meeting. And again, I think this is the first time, but not, I think this is the first time that me and my team have worked in subcommittees. So it's been definitely a learning journey for all of us. And while I think that the language was perhaps a little too broad so that we can't really, with the existing language for the Bridges Initiative Subcommittee, my concern would be that we can't point to a specific objective or duties that are within the scope of the IDEAS program and bylaws. I do think a lot of the conversation things we talked about could be kind of reworked so that we know exactly what the objective is and the duties are, and that we are, within the lane of our work. So for those of you who had conversation about that, if you wouldn't mind taking a look at the resources that we provided you, I'd love to see if the council will be willing to revisit the Bridges Initiative Subcommittee with this framework in mind to make sure that we can really bring down something that's specific and concrete and within the scope of the program and the bylaws. Any questions there before we talk about our next meeting?
Can you explain exactly what are the duties then? Like because when I read them, they're clear, right? But what do they mean exactly to you? So give me an example of coordinate feedback and outreach. Just give me an example of what you guys wrote that
Sure.
that committee should be in charge with.
Sure. So if the Bridges Initiative Subcommittee was going to tackle one of those, the duty to coordinate feedback and outreach, to identify views of interested parties and discussions on what would be the topic that you'd want to get folks feedback on specifically. Would it be about
how members of the community best receive information about available services and supports, or what services and supports the community knows exists and what they don't know. So looking at those kind of more very specific, tangible topics. Does that answer your question?
Mm, I don't I don't think I'm understanding, but let's continue so I don't take much of your time so I can, grasp exactly
Mm-hmm.
what you are saying because my interest in forming this subcommittee was more on the outreach to the community, specifically the immigrant community with disabilities, right? Those that don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how we will word it in here. Maybe outreach, street outreach. I don't know. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I'm trying to figure out because like I do understand that we have to follow
Mm-hmm.
some protocol
Mm-hmm.
because you work for who you work for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But me as a committee member, I'm trying to follow those protocols because I'm independent, so it seems to me that um and like I put in my comment too, the people who are making decisions are not close to the struggle. They happen probably not to be of color, and maybe they might have a disability, but that doesn't. It's like comparing apples and orange, like you will say.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, people with disabilities, the outreach need to be different. People of color, the outreach have to be different. So immigrants who are refugees, also, they don't only have the disadvantage of not speaking the language, but they also have the status, the uncertain status. They also have the disability. So for me, they have like 4 or 5 disabilities at once, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So and that's how I see it when I work
Mm-hmm.
with those families. And sometimes I feel that you guys push a little bit back in a very governmental way that it's difficult to understand and grasp when I don't see you out there on the weekends at the forefront. It's like we're behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
right? We are behind the scenes. So I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out if this committee is what I think it should be.
Yeah, and Lisa, you're correct. We definitely are the government. We
Yep.
are the city, um, not the front lines by any means. And which is why that we want to make sure that we are incorporating those of you who are on the front lines. And I think what we're saying here is not that we don't value that outreach, but looking at just understanding um, what it is that you're outreaching on so that it's not so general and a little bit and more specific. So outreach to um, you know non-English speaking Latino Latina populations, and
Mm-hmm.
then what information are you gathering back to bring back to the council and to inform new recommendations or existing recommendations? That's kind of, I think, what we're looking for.
Okay. So, for example, um, the conference that I sent to you, the behavioral and mental health conference that I sent to you, where we're gonna have women speaking on their challenges to access care, and me will be coming back to you guys and reporting the challenges and the struggles of families of immigrant women with disabilities, and so just trying to figure out with you right now too,
Yeah,
so just trying to understand, um yeah, to understand where do I fit in here.
yeah. And I apologize. I certainly don't want to cut the conversation short. I do see that we're about a minute before the end of our meeting. So, um, Julissa, would it be all right if we maybe connected offline to have more conversation, and then I would extend the same invitation to anyone else
Yeah, no problem.
that wanted to talk through this further. And then just with a little bit of time remaining, Jordan, if you're able to pop back onto our slide deck. I will be very brief if you want to move over to the planning for the next meeting. So our next meeting, it isn't even on the calendar yet. It will be the last Tuesday of January, and I will get that up there soon. I did realize earlier that you might still have a hold on your calendar for the last week of December, so I will go in and cancel that as soon as we get off of this meeting. And we can talk more about this in January. What we would like to propose to everyone is that we move to a bi-monthly meeting cadence, so that we would be having large public meetings on the odd months, so January, March, May, July, September, November, to create space for subcommittees to meet in the in-between. We can talk more about that in January, when we will have our annual elections for co-chairs and for our Community Advisory Council member. So that is Molly currently, who sits on Rocky Mountain Human Services Community Advisory Council. And then we'll also hear some presentations from Guided by Humanity and Developmental FX, who are some of our Voices grant partners. So I will go ahead and get all of that information out to you by email. Any last minute thoughts or questions on our next meeting?
Yeah, this is Brian B. I've got a couple.
Yeah.
Y'all be safe out there. Take a few breaths. We're transitioning from one year to the next. We're transitioning from having school to not having school, back to having school, seeing people and family and shopping, and oh my goodness. Be nice to yourselves. It's worth taking a breath. We'd like to see you back in January, and we'd like you to be well.
Thank you, Brian. That was a beautiful way to close out the meeting. Appreciate you.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the Community Advisory Council of IDEAS for December 2025.
This is Alicia Cooper. I motion for us to adjourn.
And a second. Extra bonus points if you sing it.
Adjourn, adjourn.
Well, I second. I think I can second. I second that emotion. I got the points. All right. All right. I think we have to put it in the chat. Vote to adjourn. Yes. Close out. Voting members. We got 2 votes to head on out of here. Is there anybody left? We had a few people have to. That might be quorum considering how many we've got.
Yep.
So, and Michelle did say she had to step away. So, all right.
I think that's a wrap, folks.
I think we can end the recording. Thank you all. Appreciate your attention and sharing space with us.
Take care. Happy holidays, everyone.